This is the very first issue of Action Comics, and also the first appearance of Superman. I always said that I would never buy this book because I always thought they would cost me an arm, a leg, and a few vital organs. But this one only costed $9.99, and it had to be the best $9.99 I've ever spent. Somebody set off their signal watch, and by the looks of it, they must want me to do the Comic Hero Show. Well, looks like they're about to get their wish. Edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host, Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. The summer of superheroes continues, and on this episode, in celebration of the movie that's currently out in theaters right now, I'm showing some love to the Man of Steel, Superman. Now I'm going to touch base on him later on, but for right now, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. Alright, in the last episode, I asked which legendary comic book creator's first work was an issue of Captain America Comics. Well, the correct answer is Stan Lee. And he was only 19 years old, y'all, so you are never too old or too young to chase your dreams. Well, 7 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, their names have been entered in a drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is Matthew James from Monroe, Louisiana. So congratulations, Matthew. You win yourself a free Comic Hero tee. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode. And speaking of young creators, well, rather, these two were younger. And I'm talking about Superman creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. This is a question that has something to do with them and Superman. Which U.S. city were Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster living in when they created Superman? Was it A, Cleveland, B, Los Angeles, or C, New York? Alright, here's some hints to help. The first hint, and oh, by the way, there are 10 hints, so listen carefully. The first hint is that this city's official motto is progress and prosperity. The second hint, this city's area code is 216. The third hint, famous people from this city are Drew Carey, Tracy Chapman, Halle Berry, Isabella Merced, and the late, great Wes Craven. Now, I added Isabella Merced there for a reason, because one, she is from Cleveland, and two, she's on the cast of Superman as Hawkgirl. Alright, the fourth hint, this city is the first city to be lit by electricity and the first to have free mail delivery. The fifth hint, Alan Freed, a DJ in the city, coined the phrase rock and roll on his radio station in the early 1950s. The sixth hint, this city is home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The seventh hint, this is kind of a dead giveaway, just like the sixth hint was. The Drew Carey Show was set in this city. The eighth hint, Major League, Major League 2, and A Christmas Story were all set in this city. The ninth hint, this city had a WNBA team from 1997 to 2003 and was recently named to start a new team to set to begin play in 2028. And then the 10th and final hint, and this is another sports hint for all you sports nuts out there. In 2016, this city's NBA team gave the city their first major sports championship since their NFL team last did so in 1964. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on next week's episode of the show. So, I gotta ask, any questions?
Questions I walk around in, questions I
question comes from Mandy Hooter from Bossier City, Louisiana. She asks, does Lex Luthor have kids? Yes, Mandy. He has a daughter named Lena. Now, she came about in the late 90s. This all got started when this woman by the name of Contessa Erica Alexandra Del Portenza ended up buying out LexCorp. And the only way that Lex felt that he could get LexCorp back was to marry her, which he does. And then along the way, they act for two folks that actually hate each other. Early in the marriage, they really did love each other to the point where Lena was conceived and then later born. Now, Lena has gone through a lot of stuff in her while she was growing up. The Contessa, which is also known as, ended up trying to kidnap her, but that fell through. And when that fell through, in case she knew that Lex was going to come after her, so she faked her death. And then somewhere along the way, this other version of Brainiac called Brainiac 13 during the Our Worlds at War story arc in 2001 ended up kidnapping Lena, and then aged her to 13 years old, and ended up inserting some of his cybernetic implants into her, and then used her to almost destroy the Earth. But don't worry, we all know that didn't happen, and Superman ended up bringing her back. And then when she was out of Brainiac 13's control, she reverted back to an infant. However, the cybernetic implants that Brainiac had inserted into her were still there. And this all happened, and then later on, if I'm not mistaken, Lex Luthor in DC Comics in the early 2000s ends up becoming president of the United States. And one of the first things that he does after he becomes president of the United States, he learns that the Contessa faked her death and then tracked her down and called for her to be murdered. And then he ended up sending Lena to an island to be hidden from any and all danger. And we recently found out in a crossover event with Action Comics and Superman called the House of Brainiac that the person that was watching over Lena was Lex Luthor's mother, who his father Lionel had led him to believe that died giving birth to him. And she ends up, and then when during this story arc, she leaves the island and then becomes an employee of Supercorp. Oh, it's just this crazy story. Somehow Lex and Superman got along, and then Superman ended up. Well, Superman didn't really do it. Lex Luthor decided to rename his company Supercorp in order to help Superman take down some bad guys. But then that was when he had lost his memory. But don't worry, he recently got it back, and he's out for blood. But yes, a daughter named Lena. All right, I wanted to ask and answer that question mainly because this is an episode where I'm showing some love to Superman. So I felt that I needed to ask and answer that one. And I originally had a Throwdown Showdown fight lined up for this episode, but I decided to table that for the next episode. So in episode 530, you will see a Throwdown Showdown fight. And I'm really enjoying these questions y'all are submitting. Y'all keep them up. Remember, they have to have something to do with comics or anything within the realm, or they can have something to do with me in terms of the hobby or the show. But please, no personal or tasteless questions. I will neither ask nor answer. All right, let's get to the comics I bought this week. Comic books I bought this week. All right, here we go. First up is Absolute Green Lantern number 4. All New Venom number 8. The Amazing Spider-Man number 7. The Avengers number 28. Batgirl number 9. Daredevil number 23. Eddie Brock Carnage number 5. The Immortal Thor number 25. JSA number 9. Secret 6 number 5. Spider-Gwen the Ghost Spider number 15. Ultimate Wolverine number 7. X-Men number 19. And finally, X-Men Hellfire Vigil. All right, that's 14, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 13,819. All right, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Here's a question again for a free tee for the next episode of the show. Which U.S. city were Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster living in when they created Superman? Was it A, Cleveland, B, Los Angeles, or C, New York? All right, here's some hints to help. The first hint is that this city's official motto is progress and prosperity. The second hint, this city's area code is 216. The third hint, famous people from this city are Drew Carey, Tracy Chapman, Halle Berry, Isabella Merced, and the late, great Wes Craven. The fourth hint, this city is the first U.S. city to be lit by electricity and the first to have free mail delivery. The fifth hint, Alan Freed, a DJ in the city, coined the phrase rock and roll on his radio station in the early 1950s. The sixth hint, and this is a dead giveaway, this city is the home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The seventh hint, the Drew Carey Show was set in this city. The eighth hint, Major League, Major League 2, and A Christmas Story were all set in this city. The ninth hint, this city had a WNBA team from 1997 to 2003 and was recently named to start a new team set to begin play in 2028. And then the 10th and final hint, in 2016, this city's NBA team gave the city their first major sports championship since their NFL team last did so in 1964. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tea on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Matthew James from Monroe, Louisiana, who won a free tea on this episode. All right, on this episode, it's all about Superman. Now, Superman's real name, his Kryptonian birth name rather, is Kal-El, and his adopted name is Clark Joseph Kent. And he made his first appearance in Action Comics #1 in 1938 and was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Now, superhuman powers are superhuman strength, speed, agility, stamina, durability, reflexes, senses, endurance, and longevity, invulnerability, flight, genius-level intellect, heat vision, X-ray vision, telescopic vision, wind and freeze breath, indomitable will, self-sustenance by solar energy absorption, is a master field commander, a skilled hand-to-hand combatant, and an expert investigative journalist. Now, his team affiliations are Justice League, the Legion of Superheroes, and the Superman family. And his notable aliases are Superboy, the Man of Steel, the Last Son of Krypton, the Man of Tomorrow, the Metropolis Marvel, and the Big Blue Boy Scout. I mean, Superman was the first superhero. I mean, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster were really onto something when they created him when they were growing up. And, I mean, the world loves Superman, and the world needs Superman. And now Superman, you know, with all this power, he has been, I mean, he's still with, he still has gone through adversity. He's not immune to it. I mean, he was rocketed from his home planet, not really knowing about his parents and his culture. And then, who could ever forget when he was killed by Doomsday? Don't worry, he got better. And then there were other levels of adversity that he's gone through. But what he has taught us is that even with great power, you could still be on everyone else's level. And he has proven that over and over again. And he's also had a bevy of great creators after Siegel and Shuster that have carried on the tradition that Siegel and Shuster started in 1938. And for the most part, they have done hardly any wrong. But he was the very first superhero that I picked up on when I started my comic book journey in late 1997. And for a long time, he was the only I read absolutely nothing but Superman books for the first year and a half of my comic book journey. But then I found out there was a whole other world of comics to read. But all in all, Superman has always been my favorite. And I unapologetically say that. Alright, this is a Superman Comic Hero tee. If you would like one, you can find them on my my Shopify account. There's the link down below. I'm going to keep it up for a few seconds. I'm still not done having all my products on there, but right now it's open. It's open to order for y'all to order anything. So if y'all want to go ahead and do so, please sir, please ma'am, feel free. All right, here's the road ad for the show. The Summer of Superheroes rolls on episode 530, which I'm doing later on this week. I'm showing some love to a Batman villain who saw the light, well, sort of, Harley Quinn. And also, I'm going to do a mystery pop-up segment in which I raise awareness of cleft palate and craniofacial condition. And then on episode 531, in anticipation of another great movie that's coming out in theaters later this month, I'm going to show some love to Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. And then on episode 532, I'm going to show some love to Catwoman. And on episode 533, I'm going to show some love to the Amazing Spider-Man. August is Spider-Man month, and I'm always going to show some love to Spider-Man in the month of August as long as I do Summer of Superheroes. And also, meet me at the 10th annual GeekCon. It's at the Shreveport Convention Center on August the 22nd through the 24th. I'm going to be a vendor there, and there's going to be a lot of great vendors, and then a lot of great guests that are going to be lined up to be there. So y'all come, and then meet me at the 2nd annual Louisiana Delta Comic Con. It's at the West Monroe Convention Center on November 8th in West Monroe, Louisiana. Going to be a lot of great vendors there, and I'll be happy to meet you there. So again, y'all come. All right, if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, welcome. As soon as you're done, go on YouTube and hit subscribe. If you're watching this on the Comic Book Lovers Facebook page, welcome. And as soon as you're done, go on YouTube and hit subscribe. If you're watching this on the Louisiana Delta Content Creators Facebook page, welcome. And as soon as you're done, go on YouTube and hit subscribe. All right, I'm Victor Noley on the Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 530. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero, and look up.